Hi, this is Becky Gromlich. Today we're going to paint a moon and hopefully turn this into a romantic Valentine card. I'm going to tape off the moon with masking tape. If you have a wider tape than this, it makes it a little bit easier. And I'm not going to overlap it much, but a little bit. And there we go. And I want it pressed down nice and tight, and then I'm going to take my little stylo knife and cut around there. I'm going to cut around here and push a little harder on these areas. I want to be very careful to stay on my pencil line because I don't want any of the roundness to be lost. I'm doing a little bit at a time because it helps me to stay right on the line so that I have a nice smooth circle. Now we'll take the tape off. Tape. Okay, I'm going to just smush it down a little bit again to make sure that it's down fast. Now, I want this to be quite wet. So we have a lot of paint there. And I want to start with a little bit of gamboge yellow. I'm mixing it on my tray first so that I don't, and lightening it a bit so it's not dark. And I'm just going to start that around the moon. And I'm going to let it run. I want to get it about the same width around the moon. I'm going to let it run, not just one direction. If you just let it run in one direction, you'll get these streaky things. I want it to spread out in all the directions. And before the paper dries at all, I'm going to rinse my brush and put on another color. And I'm putting alizarin crimson. Also mixing it on the palette so that I don't have any clumps in it, even though I do want it to be quite intense. And I'm putting it out around the moon. Need to add a little more water to it so it spreads better. Same thing, I'm going to let it spread. Tip it all different ways. If you just tip it one way, you'll end up with streaks. So you want to tip it different ways so that it gets smoother and smoother. And I'm just letting that run down there because I want it dark at the edges too. Now we'll do this side. We'll put a little bit of pink up here. This is permanent alizarin crimson, so it doesn't fade. I'm going to switch directions very often because I want it to not go really far in any one way. I'm going to use my tissues to get up some of this excess here that's just going to make a big streak right across the middle of my moon. And then some did come in there pretty far while I was doing that. So I'll go this direction some more. And you can see over here how it's getting quite smooth. Apparently I had one spot that wasn't even wet. Left a little white spot there. Just keep tipping it and letting it run in different directions. Reminds me of pouring paint. And then when you have an area that you need a little more paint, you just have to add it and tip it and get it to spread. Takes a bit of practice. So I'm putting some in. I'm trying not to put lots and lots of brush strokes because eventually that does take off a little bit of your sizing and then soaks into those spots further, and then you have brush strokes instead of this smooth look that I'm trying to go for. If I had done this in stages, like let the yellow dry before I added this, that would probably have made it a little bit easier. I tend to be an impatient person, trying to get it done all at once. I'm wiping off some of this excess over here. Go back and lift a little bit on this side. I'm not sure if it's dark enough by the moon. I have that gold there, but I'm thinking I am going to let it get a bit more red, and that I might want some purples in here as well. And you can add clouds to a moon like this. They always look pretty. I wanted to try for this very smooth look. So this is magenta that I'm going to add now, quinacridone magenta. And I am going to let it, I'm going to put it heavier on this side. And I'm going to let it drift this way. So let's just let that drift. I'll do it this way first. Hope you can see that really well in the camera. And then this way. And then I'm just going to let it shift across here. It's getting very spooky looking. I don't want it to be a spooky moon. I'm going to go right across this moon. I do want it to be quite bright. So now I have the potential for streaks, but I think it'll be okay. I'm going to pop some of these bubbles. It's smoothing out now. And once it looks smooth enough, now I've dried it and it's a very hot pink, which wasn't really what I intended, but I think I'm going to go with it. I could, though, if I wanted to go over the whole thing again. I do see more erased spots, so perhaps for this type of painting it'd be better to trace either your drawing or from a photo so that you don't have erase marks that are going to catch the paint. So I have a few places that I had erased. Now we're going to pull off this tape. And I am using a reference photo just for the moon. This is from Paint My Photo, which has free photos for artists to use. And I just want to get those spots in right. I think I am going to put a little bit of yellow in it too. You want it to be very watered down, like more watery than skim milk. And start on the dark side so you know how dark you had it. And I'm going to dry off my brush because that's pinker than I want. I mean yellower than I want. And I want to leave some areas white. There's some areas that are almost completely white. Okay. Now we'll go in with a little bit of rust mixed in with my gamboge. And the rust is a very orangey rust, so it will work for these areas. And I might even put some of the pink in just to tie it together. Yeah, I think that's maybe a good idea. Over on this side, it's darker. And there's actually a darkish rim. A couple dark spots. So I'm not trying to make this look like a scientific moon, perfectly done, but I do want it to look like the moon. Now none of these edges should be as sharp as that, so I'm going back in to soften them. And then I'm going to make that dark part a little bit darker. Get some of this rust rim in. In the camera, they come out black. And so I'm wanting to do this that it's a darker color, but not black. So I'm going to just try this a little bit right here on the back of my paper and see what I've got. That's pretty dark. I'm going to paint this part pretty quickly. I might do some shadowing on it, you know, like have one side. I might do some shadowing and have one side of the tree darker, but for now I'm just putting in color. As soon as I start getting towards the moon, I'm going to dip my brush, dry it, and get a little bit lighter. Because up here where it comes across the moon, it would be, the light would be hitting it. Dipped my brush and lightened it a little bit where it goes past the moon here. And now some really lighter ones going right in front of the moon. All right, I've just looked at that under the tape to see what I think about that color. And I'm definitely going to add another color. I think I'm going to add a purpler color to the other side of this tree. So I'm mixing some dioxazine, and I have it with quinacridone rest, and just a little bit of indigo to darken it up. And I'm going to sort of stick to doing one side and blending that in. Let's see how that works. Now rinse, a little tiny rinse, not a big rinse. And I think I'm going to go with pure magenta on this part. See how that works. I'm going to go back into that darker color and make more fine branches. Maybe not as much as right across the moon, but something to finish off these ends a little bit less, a little bit more detailed. Getting back into a little bit more magenta as I move back into this part of this branch. Now I've dried it, and I'm going to take off the tape and see how I see what I see. Sometimes I see little things that will tweak it, that'll make it a lot better just by glancing at it after I have the tape off. there it is. I hope you have a lot of fun painting your moon. If you like this video, please hit the subscribe and the like and maybe send me a note. Thank you so much for watching.